Today, we're going to talk about something that shapes pretty much everything about our lives, but we barely ever notice it. I'm talking about the social groups we're a part of. From your family to your coworkers, these groups are like an invisible architecture, guiding how we think, feel, and act. So let's pull back the curtain and see how it all works. So let me start with a big question. Are you really an individual? I mean, we all love to think we're unique, that we're the captains of our own ship, making all our own choices. But are we? How much of who you think you are is actually just a reflection of the groups you belong to? That's what we're going to get into. Okay, so first things first. What exactly is a social group? It's not just a bunch of people standing at a bus stop. A real social group interacts regularly, and they share similar ideas. But the secret ingredient, the most important part, is that shared sense of we. It's that moment when your identity shifts from just I to us. And that simple shift, it's the foundation of all society. All right, let's start small. We're going to zoom all the way in to the most personal and powerful groups in our lives, the ones that literally build the foundation of who we become. We're talking about your primary groups. This is your family, your closest friends, your ride or dies. These groups aren't about getting a task done. Their entire point is the relationship itself. These are the people who give you that deep, gut-level sense of belonging, and they've been shaping your values since day one. So the simplest group you can possibly have is what sociologists call a dyad, just two people. Think of a best friendship or a couple. It is the most intimate and intense kind of group. Every single interaction is direct, it's personal. There's literally nowhere to hide, which makes these bonds incredibly strong, but also really fragile. Because if one person decides to leave, poof, the group is gone. Now, what happens if we add just one more person to that mix? You get a triad. And you might think, it's just one person. What's the big deal? Well, in the world of sociology, it's a huge deal. The entire dynamic of the group completely transforms. And here's why it gets so complicated so fast. With 3 people, you can have a coalition. That's when 2 members team up, sometimes against the third. All of a sudden, you've got this 2 against 1 possibility. A third person can also be a mediator, sure, but they also introduce a whole new level of instability. It's not just about one-on-one relationships anymore. So we've seen how the basic structure of a group works. Now let's zoom out a little and see how these groups don't just connect us, they actually create our sense of identity. They define who is us and who is them. This is honestly one of the most powerful ideas in all of sociology. Your in-group is your us. It's everyone you feel a sense of belonging and identity with. And the out-group? Well, that's them. Everybody else. Now, this can be totally harmless, like rooting for different sports teams. But it's also the very foundation for loyalty, rivalry, and sometimes, unfortunately, some really serious conflict. Then you've got something called a reference group. And this one's interesting because it's a group you might not even be in, but you use it as a yardstick to measure yourself. You know, think about the most successful people in your career field, or maybe that popular group back in high school, or even the influencers you follow online. They become the standard you judge your own life against. It kind of makes you wonder, right? Who's your reference group? Okay, so we've looked at groups that shape who we are. Now, let's shift gears and talk about groups that are formed to get things done. And with that comes a whole new set of hidden dynamics and dangers. This is where we make the big distinction between our primary groups, those personal, emotional ones, and what we call secondary groups. A secondary group is bigger, way more impersonal, and it's organized around a specific goal or task. Think about your job or a class you're taking. You're all there to accomplish something, not necessarily to become best friends for life. But inside these goal-oriented groups, a really dangerous trap can pop up: groupthink. This is what happens when the pressure to conform gets so intense that people just stop thinking for themselves. Keeping everyone happy starts to feel more important than making the right decision, and anyone with a different opinion, they learn to stay quiet. So how does this happen? Well, there's a pattern. It usually starts with a group that's already really close-knit. Then you add a strong leader who makes their opinion very clear. Suddenly, there's this huge pressure to agree. People start to squash their own doubts, and before you know it, nobody is willing to rock the boat. It's a recipe that can lead really smart people to make some truly terrible choices. All right, from here, we're doing our final zoom out. We're going from small groups and teams to the massive, complex systems that organize almost every single part of modern life. Welcome to the world of formal organizations. We're talking about corporations, hospitals, universities, governments, you name it. These are basically giant secondary groups, and they are designed with one thing in mind: getting their goals done as efficiently as possible, usually with a whole lot of rules. We can actually break these down into three main types. First, you have utilitarian organizations. These are the ones you join for a reward, like a job you do for a paycheck. Then there are normative organizations, which are voluntary. You join because you believe in a cause, like a charity. And finally, you have coercive organizations, the ones you're forced to be in, like a prison. Now, the classic blueprint for these giant organizations is the bureaucracy. The sociologist Max Weber analyzed it, and he saw it as a machine built for efficiency. You've got a clear hierarchy, everyone has a specialized job, and there are rigid rules for everything. And its greatest strength? Predictability. The machine is designed to produce the same result every single time. But Weber also saw a huge downside. He was worried that this perfectly efficient machine would trap us all in what he famously called an iron cage of rules and rationality. He feared a world that was so logical and impersonal that it would just crush human creativity and spirit, basically trading our souls for peak efficiency. And that brings us to the modern version of his fear, McDonaldization. Another sociologist, George Ritzer, pointed out that the principles of the fast food industry, maximum efficiency, predictability, control, have spread way beyond just restaurants. You see it in the algorithm that tells you what movie to watch, in the swipe left, swipe right logic of dating apps, even in the way online classes are standardized. So at the end of the day, we're left with this fundamental trade-off. Our highly organized world gives us incredible efficiency and predictability, but what do we lose along the way? As you go about your day-to-day, just look at the systems all around you, at your job, online, even how you socialize, and ask yourself, is this designed for my freedom or is it designed for efficiency? And what's the right balance?